Hey guys, in this slideshow I attempted to create a quick wholesome summary of Game of Thrones. I hope this revives your Game of Thrones information, and if you have any questions, feel free to note them down below. I'll try to answer what I can. This is the map of Game of Thrones. It might seem irrelevant if you've never seen it before, but it will help you better understand what happened in a sequence. Most of the events take place in the continent on the left. It's called Westeros. Westeros is separated from the continent of Essos by a strip of water known as the Narrow Sea. In Essos, we will be following the trail of Daenerys Targaryen back to Westeros. This is a quick recap of Season 1. Season 1 starts at the Wall. Members of the Night Watch, an ancient order guarding the wall to the north of Westeros, cross beyond the wall in an attempt to track down the wildlings. Instead, they find dead bodies butchered in a horrible way. They encounter a supernatural being known as a White Walker in the forest. At that point, that creature was assumed to be mythical. Two of the men of the Night's Watch are killed, but the last one makes it back to deliver the bad news. However, he is beheaded because he is now a deserter. Beheading takes place by Ned Stark, the Warden of the North. This is the map of Westeros showing the 7 kingdoms in relation to each other, introducing House Stark in Winterfell, Wardens of the North. Their sigil is a grey direwolf. Ned Stark is visited in Winterfell by Robert Baratheon, the ruler of the 7 kingdoms. He took the throne through conquest in the war known as Robert's Rebellion. Robert married Cersei Lannister to cement an alliance with the House Lannister to hold the kingdoms together, but their marriage was loveless. Ned is invited to serve at his side as Hand of King following the sudden death of Jon Arryn, the previous Hand of King. Ned's son Bran, who likes climbing, witnesses Cersei, King Baratheon's bride, in bed with her brother Jaime Lannister, who shoves Bran from a tower window, leaving Bran paralyzed. When Bran doesn't die, there's another attempt on his life, which leaves a dagger behind. Littlefinger informs Lady Stark that this dagger belonged to Tyrion Lannister, Cersei's younger brother, leading her to believe that Tyrion is behind Bran's paralysis. In the night, Ned's wife Catelyn Stark receives word from her sister that the family of Baratheon's bride, the Lannisters, are also behind the killing of Jon Arryn. That's when Ned decides to accept to be Robert's Hand of King in order to protect him. And so he travels south to King's Landing, leaving Winterfell behind, accompanied by his daughter Sansa and Arya. At the time, Tyrion Lannister accompanies Ned's bastard son, Jon Snow, to the Wall in order to investigate the White Walker incident reported by the Night's Watch. Snow stays on with the Order and takes the Black, which means he joins the Night's Watch recruits and swears their oath. While on his way back, Tyrion is arrested by Catelyn Stark, who believes he was responsible for Bran's falling. Cat decides to take her prisoner to the Vale, where she believes her sister can help imprison and carry out Tyrion's sentence. At the Vale, Tyrion demands a trial by combat and pleads for someone to fight for him, stating that a Lannister always pays his debts. Bronn then volunteers and defeats the opposer's chosen champion. They walk out safely, making their way to King's Landing. In King's Landing, Robert Baratheon is fatally wounded in a hunting accident by a wild boar, and Ned is named Protector of the Realm until Cersei's sadistic son Joffrey comes of age. Ned, who knows that all Robert's children are bastards of Cersei's incest, gives Cersei a chance to flee and plans to install Stannis Baratheon, Robert's older brother, as king instead. Ned is betrayed by his counselor Lord Peter Baelish, also known as Littlefinger, who wanted him dead due to the powerful jealousy he had over his love cat, Ned's wife, He believed that with Ned out of the picture, he could pursue Lady Stark romantically. Ned is beheaded under Joffrey's orders. In front of both his daughters, Sansa is arrested while Arya manages to escape pretending she's a poor boy. Stark's oldest son, Robb, is named King of Winterfell and rallies the armies of the North against the Lannisters. Meanwhile, across the Narrow Sea, in Vaes Dothrak, a wedding was taking place. Dothraki warrior Khal Drogo marries Daenerys Targaryen, daughter of the former king of Westeros, known as the Mad King. She's the only remaining Targaryen, and that's why she believes herself to be the true heir to the Iron Throne. This is a chart showing the Targaryen line of succession, also illustrating that Dany is the only remaining Targaryen. In the wedding, Daenerys is gifted 3 dragon eggs. While fighting with another Dothraki, Drogo receives a scrap on his left shoulder. The wound becomes infected, so Dany asks Mirri Maz Duur to use blood magic to save him. But the witch decides to avenge the attack on her village instead, sacrificing Dany's unborn child and leaving Drogo in a vegetative state. Dany avenges him by burning the witch on Drogo's funeral pyre and climbs into the flame with her 3 dragon eggs. When the pyre dies out in the morning, Dany emerges alive and unburnt from the ashes with 3 hatched dragons. Following is a quick recap of Season 2. Tyrion takes up the post of Hand of King in the hope of controlling Joffrey's mad actions. Stannis falls under the spell of the witch Melisandre and publicly lays claim to the throne on the basis of Joffrey's illegitimacy. Robb's armies progress south with Jaime Lannister as their prisoner of war. Robb decides to send Theon Greyjoy, who Ned adopted and treated as his own, to seek an alliance with his father Balon Greyjoy. Instead, Theon reunites with his family on the Iron Islands and together they capture Winterfell. Bran is forced to escape to the wilderness. At the time, Robb also sends his mother out to meet with Renly Baratheon, the younger sibling of Stannis, who also has a claim to the Iron Throne. Cat suggests the brothers join forces to form a stronger front, but Renly refuses. He is later murdered by an evil spirit dispatched by Melisandre, in the presence of Lady Stark and Renly's bodyguard, Brienne of Tarth, who are accused of the assassination. The women are forced to flee, and on their way to reunite with Robb, Brienne of Tarth swears her loyalty to Lady Stark. After uniting with Robb, the women conspire to have Jaime return to King's Landing in the hope of swapping him for the daughters Sansa and Arya. Meanwhile, at the Wall, Jon Snow uncovers evidence of infant sacrifices. He defects from the Night's Watch and joins the wildlings beyond the Wall. Arya and her new friends are captured by Lannister soldiers. Amidst the chaos, she frees a prisoner from his cage, who later becomes an important person in her life. She is imprisoned at the castle and taken on as a servant by Tywin Lannister, who believes her to be a boy. She escapes with the aid of Jaqen H'ghar, one of the faceless men of Essos, the person she freed earlier. Before they part, Jaqen gives Arya a coin of great value. Stannis is plotting to invade King's Landing by sea, but his forces are defeated in a naval battle by Tyrion's cunning use of the Wildfire Reserve. The Lannisters win the Battle of the Blackwater. Meanwhile, across the Narrow Sea, Dany arrives in the city of Qarth with Ser Jorah and a number of Dothraki soldiers. She begins appealing to the rulers of the city for aid in reclaiming the Iron Throne, and she meets little success. She eventually accepts an invitation to the Warlock's temple, the House of the Undying. At the temple, the Warlocks attack Daenerys and intend to imprison her. Her dragon Drogon kills them and burns down the whole temple, allowing Dany to escape. Before leaving Qarth, Dany is nearly assassinated with a venomous manticore, but is saved by Arstan Whitebeard, Ser Barristan the Bold, who is sent by the same person who gifted her the dragon eggs at her wedding, along with 3 ships to take her back to Pentos. Following is a recap of Season 3. Tyrion is demoted from being Hand of King by his father Tywin Lannister, who blames him for causing his wife's death in childbirth. Tywin also forces his son to marry Sansa Stark, since Joffrey set her aside as a traitor and plans to wed Margaery of House Tyrell. Joffrey is engaged to Margaery Tyrell, Renly's widow, in the hopes of establishing a Lannister-Tyrell alliance. Beyond the Wall, Jon Snow encounters wildling leader Mance Rayder, who anticipates a battle to the death with the White Walkers. Snow finds himself in a complex relationship with his one-time prisoner, Ygritte. Meanwhile, Brienne and Jaime continue their journey south. On the way, Locke of House Bolton encounters them and cuts off Jaime's hand to send a message to his father Tywin Lannister, who was at war with the Boltons because they were allies in Robb Stark's rebellion against the Lannisters. Even though earlier Robb promised Walder Frey, Lord of the Riverrun, that he would marry his daughter Rosalind, for allowing him to cross the Twins because he didn't have time to lay siege, he later falls in love with a healer called Talisa and decides to marry her instead, breaking his oath. Nevertheless, the Starks are invited to Rosalind's wedding to another, Edmure Tully, which turns out to be a trap sprung by Rosalind's resentful father, Lord Walder Frey. House Bolton are revealed as turncoats when they assist House Frey in the massacre known as the Red Wedding. The Boltons and the Freys kill Robb Stark, Lady Stark, pregnant Talisa, and all of the northern lords assembled at the Twins. Their bannermen are all butchered as well, all with the blessings of the Lannisters. Unfortunately, the killings are witnessed by Arya, who was hoping to be united with her mother. She finds a reluctant protector in Sandor Clegane, also known as the Hound. For his part in the massacre, Roose Bolton, who stabbed Robb, is made Warden of the North by Tywin Lannister. He's even awarded Winterfell. Elsewhere, Bran Stark discovers he can project himself into the body of a dire wolf. And across the narrow sea, Dany sails to Astapor seeking an army. She purchases an army of 8,000 unsullied slave soldiers in exchange for a dragon, but she betrays the good masters, uses the dragon to burn them, frees the unsullied, and uses them to sack the city. She marches on to Yunkai, putting an end to slavery and changing the city's name from Slaver's Bay to Bay of Dragons, gaining the service of Daario Naharis in the process. Following is a recap of Season 4. Joffrey meets his end after being served poisoned wine at his wedding to Margaery. Sansa is smuggled to freedom with the assistance of Littlefinger, who takes her to her aunt's Lysa Arryn at the Vale. At some point, Lysa loses her mind from jealousy over Littlefinger, who she believes loves Sansa more than he loves her, and she attempts to throw Sansa through the moon door. Lord Baelish Littlefinger, whom she expects to marry, pushes her to her death instead, protecting Sansa. Jaime and Brienne finally arrive at King's Landing to find Sansa has escaped and Arya nowhere to be found. Brienne, now a knight in search of adventure, is tasked with tracking down the missing Stark princess, Sansa. Cersei blames Tyrion for Joffrey's assassination and orders his arrest, because Joffrey points to his uncle Tyrion Lannister apparently accusing him. He demands a trial by combat. When his champion Oberyn Martell is defeated in the trial by combat against Gregor Clegane, also known as the Mountain, Tyrion is imprisoned once more. Freed by his brother Jaime, the dwarf discovers his father in bed with his mistress Shay, and so executes him by crossbow before leaving King's Landing. Tyrion, with the help of Varys, crosses the Narrow Sea in the hope of meeting Dany, whom he believes can defeat Cersei. Roose Bolton returns to Winterfell from a quest to find that his vicious son Ramsay has tortured Theon to the point of madness, so much so that he now answers only to the name Reek. In the north, Jon Snow returns from the wildling camp to warn the Night's Watch of Mance Raydar's advancing forces, who duly lay siege to Castle Black. Stannis Baratheon's remaining men ride to the rescue, taking back Castle Black. Arya is finally found by Brienne of Tarth, and in a fight between Brienne and the Hound, Arya escapes. She knows where she needs to go. Arya finds her way across the Narrow Sea to the House of Black and White in Braavos. There she looks to study under the mysterious Jaqen H'ghar, also known as the Faceless Man. Following is a recap of Season 5. Stannis has the defeated Rhaegar burnt at the stake as Jon Snow is elected leader of the Night's Watch. The witch Melisandre convinces Stannis to sacrifice his own daughter to gratify the Lord of Light and hold back the winter snows. He burns his daughter alive, losing the respect of his own troops. Littlefinger leads Sansa to Ramsay Bolton with the intention of marrying them, an event that would mean the return of the Starks to Winterfell. Stannis arrives to fight the Boltons in Winterfell, but is easily dispatched when his men desert him over doubts about his beliefs. He is slain by Brienne, who has followed Sansa to Winterfell. After Stannis' army is defeated, Melisandre escapes to Castle Black. With the help of Theon, Sansa manages to escape Ramsay's clutches. At King's Landing, Cersei is conspiring against her daughter-in-law Margaery, who has married Joffrey's naive younger brother, King Tommen. Cersei's sexual hypocrisy is exposed, and she is forced to enact a humiliating naked walk of penance through the streets of the capital. Across the narrow seas, Dany arrives in Meereen and takes over the city of Meereen with her unsullied army. Unwilling to abandon the slaves she freed, fearing they would return to slavery, Dany decides to stay in Meereen and rule. There she struggles to retain control of the city when Sons of the Harpy rise up against her. In a battle between her guards and the Harpies, one of Dany's dragons intervenes and whisks her away. Tyrion Lannister, who had met with Dany and quickly won her trust, rules in her absence. The dragon drops her into the midst of a Dothraki horde. In the north, Jon Snow takes a group of men from the Night's Watch to meet with the Wildlings in the hope of forming an alliance. As negotiations are ongoing, the Night King breaks up their meeting and scores a devastating victory. Jon and his companions barely manage to flee. Upon returning to the Wall, a band of mutineering watchmen kill Snow. Following is a recap of Season 6. After Jon Snow is raised from the dead by Melisandre, the Revenant Knight takes back control of the Night's Watch and plans to reclaim Winterfell from Ramsay Bolton, who has since slain his family. He is reunited with Sansa at the Wall. Before the Battle of the Bastards, Sansa tried to convince Jon Snow that he is walking into a trap Ramsay created for him. Jon refuses to listen and decides to follow the hope he had to save his still-alive brother Rickon, who Ramsay has as prisoner. The battle starts off with Ramsay killing Rickon, as he cons him with a chance to run back to his half-brother Jon Snow. And even though Jon almost lost the war to Ramsay Bolton, and just after chances to take back Winterfell seemed thin, Sansa unexpectedly shows up at the last minute with Littlefinger and the Knights of the Vale to overcome Ramsay and his army. Ramsay is fed to his own dogs, whom he has not fed for 7 days, in hopes of giving them Jon Snow at the end of the battle. In King's Landing, the High Sparrow continued to dominate King Tommen and await Cersei to show up for her trial. The Queen Mother finally takes matter into her own hands, blowing up the great sept of Baelor with the last of the wildfire, killing Margaery and the High Sparrow. In his grief, Tommen commits suicide. Dany is now a prisoner of the Dothraki. The barbarians expect the wife of their late Khal to live in seclusion like the other widows. She persuades the Dothraki of her divine powers by walking unharmed through the fire she used to burn their leaders, and returns to Meereen. Theon, now free of his ordeal at the hands of Ramsay, returns to the Iron Islands where he conspires with his sister Yara to steal the royal fleet from their usurping uncle Euron. They sail for Essos and join Daenerys Targaryen's cause. Leaving the House of Black and White as an elite assassin, Arya avenges her brother and mother by slitting the throat of Walder Frey. Bran, who has been training with the Three-Eyed Raven, encounters the Night King. Following is a recap of Season 7. Dany heads to Dragonstone, once the home of Stannis Baratheon, taking her massive army of Unsullied and Dothraki aboard the Frey ships. Melisandre the Witch encourages Dany to give Jon Snow special attention and make him an ally in the battle for the Iron Throne. After receiving an invitation from Dany, Snow goes to meet her at Dragonstone. They grow close as they plan how it would be best to defeat the Lannisters and the White Walkers. Firstly, they decide to send Yara and the Unsullied to King's Landing. Meanwhile, Euron proposes to Cersei. Cersei considers the marriage proposal and offers him a chance to prove himself by defeating the incoming invaders. Yara and her army are defeated at sea by Euron. He walks back to Cersei, parading his victory in the capital. Meanwhile, battles erupt between Dothraki cavalry and the Lannisters' battalions led by Jaime. Dany intervenes, and her dragon Drogon is injured by a specially designed ballista. Jaime, who barely survived the attack, having seen the dragon, warns Cersei of Dany's power. Jon and Dany decide to call a truce with Cersei and head north of the Wall to capture a White Walker. Jon succumbs to the Night King's trap and requires saving by Daenerys. Daenerys shows up to save his companions, but fails to get him after he falls in the waters. In the process, they capture a walker, but lose the dragon Viserion, who falls under the Night King's spell. Jon is later saved by his uncle Benjen. Jon and Dany head to King's Landing to discuss teaming up with Cersei to defeat the Walker army. They bring their captured White Walker to convince her. Jon, Dany, and Tyrion head back to Winterfell after the meeting. Snow and Dany become intimate. Arya and Sansa are reunited with their brother Bran at Winterfell. Tensions between the sisters emerge and are exploited by Littlefinger. His duplicity is exposed when Bran reveals it was Littlefinger who killed Jon Arryn, the murder that instigated the entire Game of Thrones. Sansa sentences him to death. Arya carries out the execution. Bran also learns of the importance of his aunt Lyanna Stark and Jon Snow's true heritage. Turns out Snow is not Ned Stark's bastard, but in fact a true Targaryen with a legitimate claim to the Iron Throne. Let's go back to the Targaryen line of succession. Lyanna married Rhaegar Targaryen. Jon Snow, also known as Aegon Targaryen, is the only living descendant of Prince Rhaegar Targaryen, the older brother of Dany, making him the rightful heir to the Iron Throne. The Night King and the White Walkers breach the wall with the help of Viserion, an undead dragon of ice.